Stay more comfortable, more concealed, and in the stand longer with Osseo gear. Premium camouflage apparel created for bow hunters by bow hunters. Osseo's revolutionary patented camo patterns and innovative features are designed to keep whitetail bow hunters totally invisible and dead quiet. Elevate your game with Osseo. Visit asiogear.com and take 20% off your purchase with code TRUTH20. Mobile hunters, our buddies over at Tethered are always innovating to keep us more mobile and in the game when it counts. From the Tethered One Sticks, the Fast Pack, to the Ultra Lock saddle, Tethered is always designing to increase comfort and utility while reducing bulk, weight, and fiddle factor of mobile hunting gear. And now, they've outdone themselves yet again by creating the carbon fiber forged Predator CFX platform, the latest fully featured mobile saddle platform that raises the bar for what's possible in mobile hunting gear. Whether you're new to saddle hunting or an old tree climbing veteran, go to tetherednation.com for all your saddle hunting gear. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 391. Today I'm joined by my buddy, Greg Litzinger, for part 2 of our listener Q&A session, so stay tuned. All right. What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you are doing well. Hope you're feeling fine. Hopefully you're enjoying some of this. Oh, hopefully you're having some nice weather because, man, it's been gorgeous here in PA the past couple of days, and I've just been kind of lapping it up, if you will, while we have those nice kind of early summer days where it's, high 70s, maybe low 80s, no humidity, light breeze, just like perfect weather to be outside shooting a bow or doing whatever it is you want to do outside. And then the evenings have been really nice to where you can have a little fire pit, hang out, have a cigar, maybe a beverage. It's just kind of like this is outside of the fall. This is probably one of my favorite times of year just because the weather's just freaking perfect. But I also know that right around the corner is going to be the ridiculous humidity that makes it miserable to where you don't even want to think about going outside. So I'm going to forget about that and just enjoy what we got going on here right now. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it too. But with that, we're going to go ahead and just jump into today's show. Have my buddy Greg Litzinger on. This is part 2 of our Q&A session that we started last week. As I'd mentioned before, Greg and I usually get together maybe twice a year, 3 times a year to chop it up. Usually one's late winter, early spring, we get together and scalp. But since he had his wrist surgery and stuff, he was kind of out of commission for a little while. So we had to kind of bail on that scout session this year. And so this is the first chance we've really had to kind of get together and chop it up. And what I often like to do whenever I have Greg here is just, do a listener Q&A, man, make you guys part of the show. It's always fun to do that, see what question you guys kind of send in, and shenanigans with Greg and I usually kind of ensues during this conversation. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just jump into today's show. As always, thank you all for listening. All right. We are back in action.
We're back, baby.
Greg has evacuated his bladder.
Yes.
Evacuated.
Miller Lite.
Yeah, evacuated. Now he's on Miller Water.
Yeah.
Miller Water.
No more road sodas.
No more road sodas. Yeah, gotta make it back home tonight.
Yeah.
You got a lot to do tomorrow.
Yeah, whole lot of nothing.
Whole lot of nothing. It's a great lead into this next question. The person asked what our occupation is.
Currently nothing. Getting on my wife's nerves because I'm home and I can't do anything.
Right. It's perfect.
Yes.
I like that she's mowing the grass now. It's awesome.
She hates it. I love it.
Yeah.
This is a face of just, I'm like, you look good at it. It's coming around.
It looks good on you.
Yeah.
That mower really brings out your eyes. Tell her that. Tell her that zero turn really makes it.
I got a straight shaft 4-stroke weed whacker. It's
straight shaft 4-stroke. Can you get any more like
manly
lawn care terms in there?
It's kind of heavy,
right?
And you've met Monica. She's not tiny by any means.
She's as big as my leg.
Yeah, so it's like she's like, it's too heavy. I'm like, and then her mom's like, I'm gonna buy one of those battery powered ones with the curve. And I was like, don't, because in a few months I'll be able to weed whack, hopefully. I was like, right. And I don't need 2 weed whackers. I was like, that thing is diesel. I was like, let's just keep it. I was like, she can just toughen up, buck up, soldier, You
gotta
know,
get
I
her
was
on a
like,
bulk program. You gotta get her to do a dirty bulk real
she was
quick.
like, it's so heavy. I was like, oh yeah. I was like,
It's man tool.
yeah,
You know, it's not one of those foo-foo
yeah.
ones. Yeah. Yeah, you should tell her, like, hey,
Brings out your eyes.
zero turn makes your ass look big. Yeah.
It's like,
A surefire way to get her to never do any more lawn mowing for you.
And like the first 2 times she did it, I had to like about the lines and like I cut my grass 2 ways. You know, so I'm like,
Are
all
you
right.
one of those dudes that like has to cut it like a certain way? Like you need to have the certain lines.
Well, it's just from not lines. It's just efficiency.
Oh, okay.
So it's like you want to cut your grass one way, and the following week cut it this way. It helps with having random grass pop up here and there. So it's like, all right, this week we can cut it this way. Why don't cut it this way? Just listen. There's no reason for you to second guess what I'm telling you.
Change the program.
Yes, this way it gets done. Why? Why is because my hand is not operational. That's the only why we're just trust me, do what I do. I'm like, you want to like, I wouldn't say 50% overlap, but you know, good like 30%. I was like, put that wheel on that thing.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
get what you're saying.
So the overlap, and it's like, I'm like, no, the overlap, and it's just like
mine's always like a wheel length.
yeah. It's like she's on Neverland. I'm like, what? You like? It's all squished. Yeah, and I'm like, you missed like 3. She goes, it's fine. I was like, all right. In about 3 or 4 days, when that's sprouting up faster than the other, I'm like, you're gonna have problems. I was like, so just listen to me, woman. I know that's hard for you, but I was like, I'm trying to help you out.
Speaking the lawn truth over here. Truth from the lawn. That's Greg's new podcast. Truth from the lawn.
And she bought a bunch of rocks. She dug up all the mulch in the back of her house where we had the black mulch. I don't want mulch anymore. I want rocks. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right.
Well, mulch you gotta change it out.
Yeah,
you gotta replace it.
So she dug it all up and bought all these rocks.
I'm thinking of paving my whole yard.
Yes,
like just pavement,
just green concrete.
Yeah,
just
like
dye
basketball
green.
court, like maybe a tennis court out front. You know, it's like.
But she shoveled
a little patch for Rocky to poop on.
Yeah,
you know, a little patch of grass for Rocky to poop on.
She shoveled a whole whole ton and a half of pea gravel to the back of her house by herself, and I had a net out helping her. And they were out going to town. I'm like, you guys are doing great. I'm sitting underneath the shade. I'm like,
drinking a beer.
Yep.
Like,
I was
good
like,
job. It's my favorite.
Yes.
Watching other people do manual
exactly.
labor. It's my favorite. Shoot. All right. Anyway, occupation. So before you busted yourself all up.
Industrial maintenance mechanic.
Okay. And then I am a digital marketing strategist is what I do for a living.
Podcaster.
Yeah, for everyone listening who thinks I do this for a living,
you're right.
Negative ghostwriter on that. I would have about the equivalent of a cardboard box on Greg's front lawn. Is what I would have if I relied on only the podcast. No, I mean my job is good. You know, because I think what they're asking when they say occupation is like how is it for hunting?
Yes.
You know what I mean, like and stuff like that. And
I'm a weekend warrior, like most people, but I do have the luxury of 6 a.m. to 2. So early season, you know, we got our season starts early in September, so I can hunt every day after work for pretty much the whole month of September if I was allowed.
Right. Yeah. The for me, again, I'm a weekend warrior. I have, you know, normal 9 to 5, you know, type of gig. But I do have flexibility because I work remotely. So I work from home. Like my company is actually in Toronto. You know, so I have some latitude with being able to get, you know, either out of work early to go hunt if I don't have any meetings, or if I kind of front load my day with meetings if I want to try to bounce out at like 3, as long as things are kind of covered and done.
I got a doctor's appointment at 2.
And well, my previous boss, I would just tell him, hey, I'm going to hunt
Yeah.
for like a couple hours. So I'm going to be out at 3, you know,
Yeah.
but like, you know, I'd sign on early and get my stuff done or whatever, you know? And so nice thing, I guess, about what I do is that as long as my work is getting done, no one really cares when I do it, you know, for the most part, you know, have meetings I have to attend, which are during business hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's nothing critical, then I can have them reschedule for like the next day or whatever the case is. Time off, you know, I have a fair amount, not nearly as much as, you know, as you have, but I try to use it strategically for certain hunts, and plan around those. And so I have what I call my tent pole hunting moments, which is like whatever big trips I'm going to do for the year. And that's when I spend my vacation. And then I always kind of save, like the personal time and stuff like that. And I'll try to pepper that in through the year to try to chase locally at least, or semi-locally, just like we'll say Pennsylvania, where I'll try to chase, good weather days, or an area that I know is going to heat up because of the dates or whatever the case is.
Now, does working from home, do you find yourself having more PTO time because you can just kind of be sick? You're here, you can still work, push through.
Yeah, I mean, I was always a person who worked sick anyway. Like, I'm not sick. Like, I'm not going to work if I'm going to get everybody else sick. Like, I was never that guy necessarily. But I got a headache and maybe I don't really want to be there or whatever. It's like, because again, it kind of goes back to at the end of the day, I just have to get my stuff done, whatever it is. And there are some meetings that I have to attend and stuff like that. So if I'm sick and I don't feel well a day, and I've gotten either my stuff's done or it's like I got enough time to get it done. Like I can get it done like the next day or two. It's not a big deal, and there's no critical meetings, like it'll just be like, hey, let's move that to whatever. I'm just not feeling great today. And then I'll, the blessing and curse of like Slack and like messaging platforms and stuff like that is that I can be sick and like be like, yeah, I feel like dog shit today, and I'm gonna lay on the couch and I'm gonna attend like the 3 meetings that I have to because like they can't move because they're important, right? Like other people are depending on this meeting to get stuff done, so I gotta be there, right? Other ones I'll have move, and then it's like responding to like Slack messages and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like I can kind of lay on the couch and like work while I'm sick if I need to and just get by and then be able to, and I do that, like I'm not gonna lie, it's like I do that and then I'll save like my personal days, sick days to take and chase weather days, in Pennsylvania.
That's one thing that struggles. And for me, if I have to go to a physical place to get paid. And it's like, and that was sick quite a bit last year. And I use like, I don't know, 7 personal days. Yeah. Because between the girls being, Monica or the girls being sick. So it's like, and I look at, because they're like my extra hunting days. It's like, all right, I got 7 days. And it's like, I burned all 7. It's like, and it sounds shallow saying that, but it's like, they are my hunting days.
Yeah.
Almost like,
those were your extras.
Yeah. It's like,
those were the chase the weather days.
Yep. And it's like, I hate not having them.
Yeah. It's like, for example, like Rocky just had like surgery and stuff like that. And so like for his vet appointments and stuff like that, it wasn't like I took like a personal day. It was just like, hey, I'm going to be out at 3:00, and then if there was something critical and I got back at like 5:30 and someone needed something, then I would respond like, hey, answer the question or whatever. But it wasn't like I needed to like, take like a day off to take him to the vet or for me to go to the doctor or whatever. Just because it's based on like, hey, there's stuff I need to do. I got to now. If I'm going to be out for the full day, it's like if I'm like non-responsive for the day, then like then I take the day, and then. But when I do that, it's like you're not getting anything from me. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
I'm taking a day.
I'm gone.
Day, yeah.
It's like consider me dead for the day. You
don't want to see a dead body.
But what I will say for the person asking this is that some of the so I have a couple buddies who are like emergency room nurses and stuff like that. And that honestly is like, if you're thinking of like hunting, those are like
the rotating shifts like that.
Yeah, man. Because like Hep will get like, so when I say Hep, my buddy Aaron Hep, like, not hepatitis, my buddy hepatitis, so Hep will have off like the way, cause like he'll plan it to where, he'll be like 4 days on or whatever and work like long shifts or whatever. And then he might be off for like 4 days. Yep. And so he might be off like a Saturday, Sunday, which he couldn't hunt, but like then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and he's back to work and he might work 3 days and be off another 4. Cause he works like so many days, like in a month, I think is kind of how it works.
Yeah, basically with that, like my dad.
And if he stacks that with like vacation, like my buddy Tom, same thing. He's a nurse as well. Like, dude doesn't work like the month of November. Like between like he works his first shift the beginning of the month, and then he's off for like however many days, and then he takes some vacation, and it's like, and then he might work like 3 more days or 4 more days, and then he's off the rest. Like, it's like he'll work like 7 days out of the entire month or whatever. You know what I mean?
My dad was shift work at DuPont's, It was basically 14 days off every month.
Yeah.
You work 14, you're off 14.
And then if you stack in like vacation days and stuff like
Yeah.
that, it's like not vacation days, but like closure days,
Yeah.
like holiday days that the company's closed
Yeah.
or like, or that you have off. But I guess it's not the same for like a nurse because like it's not like people aren't sick on
Yeah, my
holiday
dad
or
would.
whatever,
He'd be off for 7 straight days, like I think every month. The way his schedule worked out, because he worked overtime, did something. He would be
Right.
off. Have 7 days off every month, plus whatever he was entitled to being off that he put in for. So it's like my dad was always hunting and fishing. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, shift work's great, and I worked shift work once, like I'm like, yeah, fuck that. It's just like
Right.
that is not for me. It's like I don't get much sleep as it is,
Right.
And that was like.
Yeah, I
you're
do
here,
better
you're
with
there.
consistency and being
Yeah.
able to plan.
Yeah.
For me, it's it's somewhat of a bummer. Cause
Like
there's-
but cops have the same type of.
Yeah.
I befriended some policemen here these last couple of years for social media, and they're same things, Aaron. They're always hunting.
Yeah.
Because, I got 4 or 5 days off in a row, and I got 5 personal days. So you're like, oh, you're off 10
I took
days.
this week off,
Yeah.
basically. It's like, cool, see you next
Yep.
month. But yeah, so I mean, if you're looking for like hunting purposes or whatever, something like that, or even like, I got buddies too that, work like a dog all like spring, summer, very early fall.
Yeah.
And then are basically off.
Johnny.
Yeah. Or, Eddie Claypool made a life out of it. Eddie Claypool did like, I think it was like pipe welding or something like that is what he did. Since the 80s, and I've had podcasts with him where he's talked about it. And he would just work like a dog. And then basically once October hit, actually it was September because he was super big into elk hunting. That was always like his, people know him as like a whitetail hunter in the whitetail space because he's killed giant whitetails. But that dude actually was a bigger elk nut than he was anything really. And he would basically leave at end of August, beginning of September, and he wouldn't go back to work till like December, January, like whatever it was. And he would just work and stack money and take off all hunting season, basically.
I was talking to Monica about that. She was like, what? If you can go back and redo, what would you do? I was like,
I don't regret much.
I was like, for me, I would have cut down trees. Mm-hmm. I would have been a free climber. Because, dude, it's like, you're a free climber, and it's like you can stack work a lot in the spring storms. There's a way to, and I was like, that would probably be tree climber or landscaping because, November's usually pretty clear. Some of those months, it's like you can just hunt a lot, work your butt off in summertime, but then enjoy peace and quiet, in the fall. Because I'm not a big fan of summer. It's not like I go to the beach or anything. Like if I could work 7 days a week during the summertime, I mean, I have before other jobs, or work in amusement, work six days a week, 75 hours a week during the summertime because they're busy season, and that was great hunting because I got all this PTO time. And it's like, so come like October, it's like, I'm just going to go hunting. Like I took off like every Thursday and Friday from October and November. And that's what I did. So I had 4 days, to do whatever I wanted every week.
So I would probably marry a cougar in Iowa with some land. Just get right to it, man. I'm going to be kept man.
Yeah.
Has some land in Iowa, a farm I can hunt, Yeah,
because like there's plenty of people making money by working, without, I don't have college bills or anything to pay. I got friends that are still,
I think
paying off of that.
You just said a mouthful right there. Like I think outside of like beyond occupation, like just being fiscally responsible. If hunting is something you want to really do and pursue as like a passion, and you want few barriers to your ability to go hunt when you want to hunt. Like get your finances right.
Yes.
Like and not just your finances today, but your financial future right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? To where
because you don't want to be 50 dead broke with nothing to show.
It's like that's the
or
ticket.
a broken marriage.
Like spend your younger years like working and hunting like a normal guy, but working and making that nest, so to speak, to where when you are in when you're my age, right? You're in your 40s. And it's like, then you can go like, all right, I know enough about hunting now, right? I'm experienced to where it's like, I can really kind of get after it. And now I have the freedom to go do it. And I've got the finances to support whatever it is I want to go do, right? There's plenty of people that kind of set things up like that. Like Johnny's a great example, like has a great business that he operates and stuff like that.
And certain business out there. If you're young, listen to this. If you're looking to get into this, you want to hunt more than work.
Gigolo.
Yeah, but there's plenty of industries. Excavating.
Yeah.
It works slow. Usually in the late fall and winter,
Yep.
you can hunt a lot.
Yep.
Landscaping. There's a lot of things you can do besides the 8 to 4, 9 to 5, working in a corporate type environment.
But rule number 1, keep your Skrilla tight, as the kids say. I don't even know if the kids say that anymore. The kids may have never said that.
Well, they are now.
But they are now.
What's
T-shirts will be coming. Keep your Skrilla tight, All right. With that, we're going to move on to another question. This one is biggest whitetail hunting regrets.
Regerts.
Yeah, biggest.
It's my credo.
Regrets. My credo. No regrets. Not even one. Not even a letter.
I love him. My biggest hunting regret. Oh, that's a tough one. I gotta give that a little thought. What do you? Biggest whitetail hunting regret. I'm gonna say my biggest one would be not shooting some deer. This one, I was primarily a bow hunter, as most people know me, but I was living in the Pine Barrens in Jersey, and I'd never forget, it was the first day of shotgun season. And I have my uncle's over and under Frenchie, super lightweight, threw a hell of a buckshot. And I was a little scared of the gun, not gonna lie. Like, I'd shoot it, but it's like, I mean, you're feeling it. It's like shooting a 10 gauge turkey load. Like, it was like that powerful. And but this 9-pointer came in. I was bow hunting. I mean, I had him at 20 yards, mounting a doe, and I didn't shoot him because I didn't want my first buck to be with a gun, first big buck to be with a gun. So I didn't shoot that deer.
How big was that one?
He was huge for a piney. Probably. I think it was low 120s, which was huge for it's big.
Pine Barren doesn't have a whole lot of habitat.
Yeah. So it was like, that's one of my biggest regrets. I hate.
Regerts.
Yeah, and not shooting that deer.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so you shoot one, the next one's a little bit easier. The first one, because I might have been 19 when that happened, 18. So I was just getting in started. I was like, like that would have been a good push for me. Like, okay, like I can do this. This is doable. And I remember I didn't even take the gun off the lap. Like, it just sat there. And it was just like, just looking at him, just watching him mount a doe like 2 or 3 times. And it was like, and I could hear like clubs driving, and then the next drive, somebody in a club shot that deer, and it was like, so it's like it was like hanging in the meat pole like that whole week, and I was like, every time I seen it, I was like, motherfucker, and it just made it worse because it was like,
should have been your deer.
I feel you passed that deer up. I mean, guys didn't believe me. I'm like, dude, I had him like 20 yards, like breeding the doe. Why didn't you shoot him? I was like, I hunted him with the bow. I wanted to shoot him with a bow. Well, that's dumb. You're not a deer hunter. I'm like, well, I'm a bow hunter. Like, that's like, I gun hunt because it's a club atmosphere. Like, there's thing to it. I was like, but I prefer to shoot with a bow.
Yeah. I mean, man, regrets in whitetail hunting. I mean, there's been plenty of deer that in hindsight that I've passed up similar to that, right? Not necessarily with the gun, but just like in general, where it's like end of the season comes around and you're like, psh, probably should have shot that deer. You know what I mean? So I think that happens all the time. And I won't say like full on regret, but there's been a couple where it was like, yeah, I probably should have shot that deer at the end of the year. It's like, I should have been happy to shoot that deer.
Yeah.
First thing that kind of came to mind, but I don't think it's really a regret, was missing that big deer in Iowa.
37 times.
37 times.
I remember you called me.
Minus 35, but yeah, you're not far off. I missed him twice, which was terrible.
You were like, I missed again. I missed again. I was like,
yeah.
Just throw your bow at him next time.
Yeah, I was going to jump out the tree with a knife in my teeth the next time. Is all there was to it. Yeah, I mean, regrets are hard because like that one was one of those things where it's like, like, what do you regret not shooting better? But it's like, I mean, it wasn't much I could do. It's like I tried to make the shot and like, a couple things just didn't break my way. One was like the first one was I just got punchy, and I admit that. Second one, clipped a small twig that I didn't see, or sapling or whatever that was in that area, and just knocked it off.
I like to call them arrow fuckers.
Yeah, like, and I knew as soon as I shot, I was like, that was weird. It was like, because it was just like the arrow died. It was like right into the dirt, and I'm like, how was I like holding it on his like chest, on his diaphragm, and then all of a sudden it's in the dirt, like a foot in front of him.
Dick in dirt.
Yeah. But I think the one regret that I have is not realizing 2 years ago in Kansas, not realizing how big that deer was that I was actually on. Because I didn't, because had I known, I probably wouldn't have come home.
Yeah.
I probably would have just stayed, because it's like,
world-class deer.
I mean, how many times do you have a chance to chase a 195-inch deer? And you're on him.
Yeah.
What's
another 2 days at that point?
Yeah, and you've seen him twice.
Yeah.
And you spent 5 minutes with him at 20 yards, right? That's probably the only regret, is that I just didn't stay, longer, or that I didn't know better.
Yeah.
Because I don't really have any regrets where it's like I didn't shoot this deer, when I should have, or, I should have spent, did this, should have zigged when I should have zagged. Because like, to me, like those are things you're making decisions on, that you make the best decisions you can with the information that you have. And like, and you're going to be wrong. And and it happened. It's going to happen again, so it's not something like those instances where it's like I could have changed something, because it's with what I knew, I wouldn't have done anything different in most instances. Right. Yeah. I've never set up incorrectly on purpose where I was like, screw it.
Yeah.
It's if I've been set up incorrectly or something like that, or I made a bad decision, it's because I just misread the situation or whatever. It wasn't like I just didn't know, that was one where like I knew he was a big deer. I just didn't know how big. And I wish I would have known how big, because like, I don't know that I'll get a chance to chase a deer that big again.
Yeah. That's a tough one. And I think that gun one was probably the biggest regret I could think, because like I said, a lot of ones like wrong pin, I missed that big one in Kentucky. I just a rangefinder, I was just wrong yardage.
Right.
So it's like, that's not necessarily a regret. That's just I'm an idiot. And
made a mistake.
That's not necessarily regret. It's like
regret is more like when you make a decision, consciously make a decision. Mm-hmm. Knowing the consequence, right? And you're like, mine, I guess I didn't know. I mean, I knew it was a big deer.
Yeah. And all my big deer that I've had opportunities, usually slinging arrows at, like I've hit them, nicked them, and stuff like that. I said, you can't really call that. Can't call that a regret, misjudging it, or wind, or buck fever, or whatever you want to call it. Punching the trigger.
You can regret a shot if you take a shot that you think that you shouldn't take, and you take it anyway. Like, that's a regret. Yeah. Right. Like.
Yeah, there's not too many. I haven't lost that many big deer. Lost a few. Like I've had a lot of non-fatal hits. Mm-hmm. Like front leg. Like jerking or loin shots. I've loined a few big deer. Right. It's like, well, they're gonna live. They're not gonna die off a loin hit. But there is a few moments that regret that piney buck, and there was one instance in the mountain. My buddy ended up shooting that buck. We seen him, and we looped around. And I was like, I'm just going to get on this hedgerow and bump him to you, because he never killed a big buck before. Mm-hmm. And I had this buck stand up 10 yards from me. And I'm standing there holding my dick in my hand. And it was like, no, that's cool. Like he ended up killing it, later in the day, whatever. But still, it was like, I could have shot that deer, because I don't need my bow. He's going to run as soon as he sees me. Wrong.
Right.
Good on thing. He stands right, looks right at me. I'm like, oh, hey. And he just stands there. And it's like, you're not going to run? Like, you're just going to stay there and just, awesome. Thanks.
Right. Yeah. I can't think of any other regrets that I have, though. I mean, I usually, at the end of a season, even if it's not great, I can always kind of look back and be like, you can always regret that I didn't hunt more. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, man, work, family, I get out as much as I possibly can. Or there's some days where I'm like, I could go hunt today, but I'm going to spend it with the wife and kid or whatever. It's like, that's not a regret. Yeah. At at least at this age, it's not a regret because the alternative is I'm spending time with my family, you know. Now, when you're younger, sure, maybe it is a regret, right? Because like the alternative was you sat at home and watched TV, you know what I mean? Like whatever the case is, right? But for me, it's like I don't really have a whole lot of regrets. Usually I have a plan or a loose plan. One regret, so here's one, is I regret... regret might be
starting this podcast,
right? Yeah. Yeah, some days, you know, some days. I regret, and regret might be too strong of a word, but maybe
Regerts.
Yeah, I regret that. I used to think that I had to have all the puzzle pieces before I would really feel good about making a play on a deer. Like, and it's been more recently where it's like I don't really even care. Like, I don't even want all the puzzle pieces. Like, I just want to know, like, some baseline information. You know?
I just want to cut a big track,
and I just want to go get it.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that to me was like one. I don't regret it because I don't think it's necessarily cost me deer, although it probably has. Mm-hmm. I regret it more because, man, like the past 2 years, I kind of threw all that shit out the window and been hunting super free, and I've been having a blast.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's more so why, because I'm like, man, if I would have just not been such an anal douche about like having to try to know everything, you know, before I felt good about, you know, and just being like kind of rigid a little bit. Like, I didn't think that I was until like the past 2 years where I've been more like, screw it.
Yeah.
I know these 3 things. I'm going to go make it happen.
Yeah.
You know? And that was when I realized I was like, man, I was way more rigid than I thought, like in my thought process and my willingness to divert from a plan or whatever. And since I've done that, it's not a surprise. I've filled more tags and I've had way better hunts, you know, and I just feel more fulfilled too, you know? So those would be it, you know? So Pine Barren, not being a rigid douche.
Yeah.
And wishing I knew that the deer was huge and I would have stayed a couple extra days. There's our Regerts. All right. What are your best tips you could say to someone new to hunting bucks in the mountains? Don't. Turn around. Go the other way. Find a farm.
Yeah.
Like,
say the question again.
Find yourself a cougar that you can that you can marry that's got some farmland.
What are the best tips you could say to someone new to hunting bucks in the mountains?
Yeah.
Mountains or hills?
I think they're specifying mountains.
Because
we could just go mountains, big woods, like
I fucking excuse my language.
It's okay. You've said it like 20 times already.
Okay. Beep beep. Hill country.
YouTube totally demonetizing this one.
Hill country. The winds it's just very. I struggle in rolling hill country. You know, because that thermals and winds is. Mountains, I like steeps and deeps when it comes to mountains.
Steeps and deeps, folks. You heard it here first.
Yeah, it's
that's a new shirt.
Yeah.
What was the first one? I forget.
Wasn't there Regerts?
No, there was a shirt we were going to. Truth from the lawn. I think.
Oh,
yeah. Like that. Truth from the lawn.
Yeah.
And steeps and deeps.
Steeps and deeps. The steeper the mountain terrain, the more I enjoy it. First of all, you're going to get away from people. Not a lot of people, especially bow hunters, are going to lug up some serious vert to get up high. So some of the best hunting that I found in the mountains is some of the steepest, nastiest stuff. You know, is deer are like mountain goats, man. It doesn't bother them, you know. So it's like,
oh, dude, you see them, like I've watched them just go straight up stuff that you'd be like, when you're scouting it, you're like, oh man, that's going to be a thing where the deer are going to want to go around that. You know, they'll never go up over that. And then you sit in your tree and you're like watching one just go straight up vertical.
It's a little 60-pounder, like it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's like 4-wheel drive engaged and it goes right up and you're like, wow, that's pretty steep. All right.
Right. It's like, cool. Yeah, they're totally not going around this.
For mountains, the steeper terrain, you're new to it, stick to points, ridges, start your scouting and or hunting there. I personally would avoid saddles, as saddles have become very saturated with humans.
It's an easy terrain feature for people to see. That even like a
You don't even need
novice.
a map. Yeah, you don't even need a map. Like if you're walking down a ridge and you see, you automatically gravitate towards that. Not saying you can't kill a buck in a saddle. People do every year, but find out bedding for that predominant wind and start just poke around those ridge edges and the old upper 1/3, upper 1/2, and just find some buck sign at say 2,000 feet. If you get a lot of buck sign at 2,000 feet, whatever the terrain feature allows, I would pretty much stick to hunting, scouting, said
elevation.
Number. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All the stuff Greg said. Plus, like, a little bit more maybe directional or whatever, which is if, and this person is saying someone new to it is, and I'm assuming they're referring to public. Is what I'm referring to, or what I think they're referring to.
Food, clear cuts.
Yeah. The is give yourself time. It's not going to happen probably the first year.
And if it does, let's just be real, you got lucky.
Yeah.
And that's probably not going to happen again for a long time.
Right.
And if it does, maybe the first one wasn't lucky. You're just that good.
Yeah. In my rule of thumb is always kind of, regardless of like what type of terrain it is, but especially if it's mountain, and just in big woods, is give yourself 3 years to figure it out. It's going to take you a little bit of time to figure out like where all the food sources at, how they're kind of moving. If it's a really big area, like some of the stuff that I've been hunting, it's like the deer don't live in just every single area. They live in these small little pockets, and it takes a little time to figure out where are those pockets. Can you find some consistency on the map where it's like, hey, I found these pockets. Well, what's it look like on a map? And then translate it back to like, well, where do I see similar type of terrain features that might, and for me, it's a lot of times, especially where I hunt currently, it's a lot of time what gathers moisture. Yeah. And so you look on a map and say, all right, what does that look like where I found it? Well, where are some other spots that look like that? And now it's like, okay, cool. These are the types of areas that are gathering moisture. So let me go investigate those. Right. And that might not be the case for wherever this person is hunting, but you have to start to kind of break it down like that if you're dealing with a lot of area in a lot of up and down, right?
And there's some areas with regarding food, some states and forests are managed for habitat. Yeah. Others are not.
That's huge.
Yeah, others are not. So if you're in an area where it's just natural, just the way it was made and this way it's always going to be, then I focus more on terrain versus food. Mm-hmm. But if you're in an area where the state is doing some habitat management, then focus on terrain near food. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that.
The other thing too is, so 3 years is kind of like it'd take you probably 3 years to learn it well enough to actually start putting on like good hunts and feeling like you're actually in the game, and then especially if it's like a big woods kind of mountain piece, like the stuff that I've been in is trail cameras are your friends, and stop relying on, if you're relying on them for real time, like in season data, like, okay, but unless there's a particular buck that you're trying to kill, I would move away from that and start looking at it year over year and start finding trends.
Yeah, and scout more than you hunt your first year.
Oh my God, yeah. Like that piece that first year I was hunting the newer piece. Yeah. I don't think I hunted it the first year. I went up a couple of different days in October and basically walked, and I would set up in the evening, like wherever I happened to end up. I would just set up.
Play the
long game.
Yes.
Yeah. And so long-term data with trail cameras, run trail cameras year-round, start to figure out how to use that area, wherever you're planning to hunt or wherever you're scouting, how they're using it throughout the season. So you can start to understand what direction are they moving in October, what direction are they moving in, November, December, et cetera, because you may not end up hunting in that general area, but you might start to understand like, hey, whenever they're primarily still in a bed to food pattern in the summer or in October, like early season, man, it seems like they're all moving in this direction during late evening. Yes. Right. It's like, oh, they're probably coming from bed going to wherever they're going to feed for the evening. Right. Yeah. So now you start to get an understanding of like what direction food might be in. And you move your cameras a second year. Right. Yeah. And so then you start to kind of figure out like why they're moving, when they're moving, et cetera, et cetera. And you can start to actually build a plan.
Yeah. And if you happen to stumble upon hot sign, don't leave hot sign to find hot signs somewhere else.
Right. Oh, that's a great point, is that understand what type of sign you should be looking for, and not like whether you're looking for scrapes or rubs or tracks or whatever, but to get a sense of what is good sign for that area.
Yes.
Especially if like the mountain area you're hunting is like not close to home, you know, or if it's big woods and not near agriculture, right? Like that sign that you see in ag land where it's just trees torched.
Yes.
Probably not going to see that in like a mountain big woods setting.
True.
Right? If the deer aren't congregated or aggregated like close together, right? Because there's just not as much competition, right? So that small rub on that small tree that's about the size of a baseball bat handle, like that might be the best you're going to get, right? And so you have to start discerning the sign based on the area that you're in. Decipher. Regerts.
Yeah.
All right. This next question. Oh, there's another one from Jakob. Well, Jakob Sklenner said, what hold did you use to break Greg's wrist? So
the key lock?
It was a sweet wrist lock I hit him with. Like I said, who does number 2 work for? And he wouldn't tell me, so I just had to wrist lock him and break it.
Wrist picked him.
Yeah. So that was a nice little fun break. Whatever, Jakob. We're not talking about Greg's wrist anymore. He's sad about it. The time gap, or the time between buck shedding velvet and them making their fall shift.
Time gap between a buck shedding velvet and then making their fall shift. I'm assuming they're going to say Charlie Bear. Is that right?
Sure. Bear. Sounds right. Unless you're just...
I got my trifocals on, so it's like, I got to find the right distance.
Broken wrist. Can't see.
Peak male performance.
This is what peak male performance looks like.
Time gap between a buck shedding velvet.
So I'll take a stab at this one first if you want, while you're pondering. So what I've seen, at least in my general area, is that I kind of consistently get bucks shedding usually around it seems like for whatever reason right around the 10th, 11th, like they're usually peeling or have just recently of September. Sorry. No, this month. They just got nubbins. They're off, dude. They're hard horned. They're ready to rock, dog. Usually around September 10th, 11th, 12th is usually whenever I see the majority of them peeled or, have peeled in the recent past day or two. You can tell because you get kind of bloody antler pictures or whatever. Or, they're not far from peeling. Yes. And so for me, it depends in terms of the shift after that. It depends on where it's at. What I've kind of noticed around here, or more local, if you will, or I'll just say smaller blocks with maybe more agriculture and more suburbia around it, right? What I have found is that they usually transition pretty quick, and it's usually within 2 weeks. Yeah. That's usually kind of the time frame. More than likely, probably within the next week. Yeah. I think it's also somewhat partially
pressure and food related.
I was just gonna say it's partially determined where those bucks are living during the summer and how sustainable that food source is and for how long, right? But I usually give it a maximum 2 weeks. And if I'm hunting something in that time frame, which I have in the past, I usually only give myself that first week. So my season comes in here around the 17th. There was 1 year I had a deer that was a really good buck, and I found him in the summer glassing. Yeah. And I knew he was going to peel probably around the 11th roughly, because I had a couple years of data that I'd watched deer peel around that same time. And my season came in the 17th. And so I knew I basically probably only had to probably the 24th maybe to try to kill him. I was going to have maybe a week. That first week I was going to have to do it. I went in and saw him. I kicked him out of his bed. I got too greedy and never saw him again after that. But so that's why I say probably only about a week, maybe 2 if the food source is real solid. And the reason why I thought that one was probably only a week is because I knew he was on beans. Yeah. And they were starting to turn. And so I knew all right, he's peeled and his food source is starting to dry up. He's probably going to be here about a week.
And I had one little area I've been running cameras and pretty hard the last 2 years. once they peel, it's a big 8. He disappears completely. Once he gets hardhorn, I don't get him any, and I camera bomb the shit out of that place. You know, it was like he disappeared until January. I got him on camera, not in the same area, but general area. Then I had him all the time. So he's living there early season and late season. And those 2 other bucks, they stayed kind of local. The one smaller 8, he stayed until October, and I never got a picture of him again. The big, another like big oddball deer I was chasing, a big 5, barely a 5. I mean, he had like a half-inch brow tine, barely legal. He was this giant 4-pointer basically. He was all over the place. Like that dude, I had him, 3 miles this way, 3 miles that way, all month September, October, and November. I got nothing from him.
Right.
And then I've never seen him, and he might have got killed or whatever.
Right.
But that area, those 3 bucks were grouped up for 2 years. I watched them all grow.
Right.
But it was weird because they all just the big one. I mean, as soon as he got hardhorn, he was out. I got velvet, and I had seen like a little bit of bloody, like he was walking by had a picture on the scrape. He'd always hit the scrape and velvet. He went hardhorn. I had 2 pictures of him just literally just like walking by a scrape, never even hit the scrape. Every time I went by the scrape and velvet, he put his face in and all this stuff. As soon as it was hardhorn, he cared less about the scrape, and then that was it. And that was like the second week of September.
Okay, wow.
September 8th around there.
Yeah, roughly the same time.
And it was like, and he was like, and I had him, believe it or not, 6 miles the way the crow flies, and a whole another piece of public, 6 miles, which is for him to get there is probably damn near 10. And then you're like, and had like 3 random pictures in October, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing over here? It's right. It was such a weird disbursement.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say after, like locally, that's what I kind of see, but it's also a lot of fragmented parcels and stuff like that. In the bigger piece, the Big Woods piece, like what I'm actually seeing, and this is just based on roughly 3 years, is that if I have a crop of bucks in the summer, and let's just say, and most of my stuff is on scrapes, and I've talked about how I've run cameras in the past. Usually, if I have 5 bucks on a scrape during the summer, 2 of them are probably going to stick around to be home bodies. And I had that last year. I had a really nice big mainframe 9 last year, and I had him in the summer in velvet, and I had him when he peeled. Like, I had bloody antler pictures of him right after he peeled, and I had him in October. I had him in November. Like, he stuck around, right?
Do you find that in the bigger pieces? I find, at least for me,
more home bodies,
more common that they stick around a general area because they're still in the same woods, but they're not like I hunt small little 500, 600, 700 acre pieces, but there's a bunch of them relatively close. And they just go everywhere. Yeah.
So yes, what I have found is that I find more homebody deer in the big woods than I do in smaller fragmented areas. And my assumption is because, at least in this particular piece, and it may not hold true in every big woods piece, but like, just as a reminder, like the habitat I'm hunting is more like what you would find in like Maine or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, or like the Adirondacks or something like that. Like, where it's not like you're hunting Southern Ohio where there's just green briar for miles and everything is like an oak flat and just, you know what I mean? This is like, there's areas where it's just big pole timber where there's not food there. There's not cover there. You and I could throw a baseball in that area, and not hit a tree, So my kind of hypothesis is that I don't get nearly as much transition in that area after they peel because the food is very like located in these micro habitats that pop up and that's like the food area. Like, and they're going to live in that area that's going to be close to that because that's where the food is. And the next section of that might be 3 miles away or 4 miles away or whatever. And it's not ag. So it's not any better or any different than what they have in that spot. So there's no real incentive for them to move, and that's my hypothesis. I don't know for sure. But I see a lot more homebody deer up there. So I've had that where they stick around. And I had, the one, that got killed last year by a gun hunter. that I bumped the year before in October, and he would be daylight. He would stick around. He would peel, and then he would be only nighttime. So he clearly changed where he was bedded.
Yeah.
Right. And then he would disappear middle of October. Like that's when he would transition, and then he would come back like beginning like late first week of November. It was really weird. Like he transitioned like at a really weird time.
I wonder if he knows where there's a pocket of does that come in early, and he's like,
well, see, I think I figured out where he knew where there was a pocket of does. I think it's why I bumped him.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't far away from where I had him before, but I just think like he wasn't traveling the spot that I had seen him usually in the summer and early fall, or summer and early fall. And then he got killed. I told this, I think, to Jake Hofer whenever he and I were talking to one day. He actually got killed like almost, I don't know exactly where he got killed, but I know what area he got killed in. And it's like 4 easy. If he was killed on the backside of this piece, as the crow flies, he was 5 miles from where I would have him all summer and most of fall, you know. And he was killed like first week of gun season, like opening. So it's like, you know, very end of November or whatever. So I don't think there's a rhyme or a reason. I think you have to kind of pay attention to like what the deer in your area are doing, you know, and how often they disperse and to what magnitude.
I have some farm country I hunt in the marsh. They plant beans early some years. Some years they plant corn. You know, it's like every 2 years they'll alternate, or sometimes they plant the beans a little later, so the beans are green, going into when the oaks. You know, so sometimes those deer don't shift very much because you know the beans are still plentiful, and end of September oaks are dropping, so it's like they don't really have a need to find or shift for food.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there's a rhyme or a reason. I think it's personally, my personal experience, I think it's based on like the structure, somewhat
age, structure, habitat, pressure.
Yeah.
And the ability to disperse.
Yeah, the ability to disperse is huge, right? Like if they don't have the area to roam about.
If you got 500 acre piece, which is a pretty decent chunk, and if they disperse just to a piece of private that nobody hunts,
they're gone.
Yeah, so
they didn't move that far, but they're still gone.
Yep.
You know, and that's why the big woods piece, I dig that because I forget who I was talking. I think I was talking to Tony Peterson about this.
You can find the shift sometimes,
right? Or you have enough cameras out, spread out wide enough that you end up picking them up in different places. And like we talked about that, where you know they may leave the little spot they were in the fall, and they may have only shifted a mile. That's still, you know, or a half mile or whatever.
Miles. You really look at it, like if you walk through the woods, like for us to walk a mile through the woods, it's longer than a mile basically, because you're going to have to go around houses, roads, all that other stuff. You know, so it's like a mile where the crow flies could be 2 miles. By the way, you know, how they travel. That's a pretty good chunk.
Right. But like what I was talking about the one day, I forget who I was talking to, who I was talking with about this. But if you have a deer that peels, let's say, and you have him in this general area, you know, where you're running a camera and you're picking him up, right? And he shifts for the fall. And say he only shifts like where he's, and let's just say bedding to make it really easy, where we're finding like a fixed point, right? Just so like the point is better illustrated. But he shifts for the fall, and now he's bedded 500 yards away, right, from where that camera is. But his core area still overlaps where that camera is. But his bedding situation has just changed to where his travel route's now changed. Like he hasn't left the area. And that's what like Tony and I were talking about, was that I think some deer shift. I think it's what you said earlier. I think it's food-based, pressure-based, how much area do they have? I think it's mature, like age structure, right? But I think a lot of times these deer don't shift nearly as far as we think they do. We just stop getting visuals where we have historically got visuals of them, and we say, oh, they shifted. Because I've had deer shift in the big woods and then pick them up on another camera because I have like an area kind of canvassed, if you will. And I picked them up on a camera 600 yards away, and now he's on that camera, let's just say consistently. And I don't have him ever again on the camera that I had him in on summer, but he's only like 600 yards away. You know what I mean? And so it's not like he left the zip code. He just slightly shifted how he was using the area. And now the area that first camera was in that we picked him up on is now not desirable any longer, you know. And I see a lot of that in the big woods, and part of it's because I can run a wider net of cameras because I've got, you know, a lot more room to roam.
Yeah, I find that, like in the salt marsh especially, I won't get nothing summertime.
I got a couple spots like that where it's
the bugs are so bad in these islands.
Oh yeah,
if they're in velvet,
that.
they're like, they're not going to these fucking islands, dude. It's like they're gonna get just
eat
tore
up.
and so it's like they won't shift to those islands until the oaks start dropping. You know, the white oaks. One spot's red, so it's like they won't even shift to these islands sometimes until the reds start dropping.
Right.
You know, we all know that's not early season by any means. So like
right.
that timing for them to shift in those islands, it's pressure / food.
Right.
You know, if there's no pressure, I'm not going to this fucking all the way out there.
Right.
You know, first bit of pressure, all right, I'm out there. You know, now I got now I got red oaks,
got some
plus
food,
good bedding,
got cover.
Yeah.
So so there's not like a hard and fast rule, I don't think. But one thing I will say is like when you mention age structure, I think that's a big thing that I see more often is that I see less shifting as I've been in this big woods piece, and I'm finding more deer that are in that like 4 to 6 year old range, which isn't super common to find in PA, but I've managed to find pockets where it's like I'm finding deer of that age range.
There's no big deer in PA.
There's none. Shush your math. If there are, they're out with
Ridley Creek State Park.
Ridley Creek State Park, and out with Johnny and Bo and Steve Shirk. Like they're all out there. You should just go out there and hunt. Everybody should go out there and hunt. But what I've found is that when you have like the more mature the deer, the less I see them shift. Like usually if I find a good buck, like in the one I mentioned that was like 5 miles away, like I know he was, where I knew he shifted for early does, it was only from that spot from that camera where I picked him up to like where I was hunting him and where I bumped him was maybe a mile and a half, right? But it was all part of the same ecosystem. Like there was a big cut that was there. So they were using all these same features. It wasn't like it was a new area. Like I knew he was in that area, right? And then I found some signs. So I knew he was over on this other, it's not another piece, but just over in this other particular spot, right? And he was a mature deer. Like that year I hunted him, he would have been 6.5, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the first year I found him was 3, so I think that was his third year I knew of him. No, this would have been the third year I knew of him. So he was 5.5 that year. And what I'm finding is like the more mature deer that I'm finding in that area, like in that, when I say area, like that, however many thousands of acres, those mature deer typically aren't transitioning very far, or when they do, it's more an excursion than it is a complete disbursement, like wholesale.
Yeah, and those, I don't say monoculture type environments. There's
monoculture. That's a good word, dude.
Like monotonous type. It's the same. Like where are you shifting to?
Yeah, exactly. So that was like what was.
Oh, I'm gonna go 3 miles to get the same shit.
Right. That's what I started thinking about when I first started hunting and scouting that piece, where I was like, and I started seeing that deer weren't necessarily moving, not moving, but weren't shifting as much as I had kind of anticipated. And I started thinking about it and going, well, I wonder why they're doing that. And I was like, exactly your point, where I was like, there's same thing over there as there is right here.
Yep.
It's not any different, right? So what's the reason why they would leave? Does.
Yep.
Right? So if I catch him somewhere else on a camera somewhere else, that makes me think, oh, there's a doe group over here that he's interested in, right? And so you start to piece the puzzle.
In some of your cameras, you don't get a lot of does in summertime, right?
No.
Yeah. So that could be, they're the bachelor pad versus.
Yeah. Now there's one, in an area that I'll spend some time this year that I hung a camera and I didn't expect anything out of it. And
you say that all the time and it works. So just stop. All right.
I know you give me shit about it all the time.
Stop.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I didn't think nothing was going to happen. Look at this. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And it's like, oh, that's just one day.
That's just one day, one camera.
Yeah.
But I ended up having like a ton of deer on it, like a pile of deer on it, and a fair amount of bucks, and it got used almost daily. And I thought it was a decent spot. I didn't think it was going to have that kind of activity on it, and the bucks that were on it were good. Like where it was like, okay, cool, like there's good bucks in here.
Surprise.
But that was just kind of like a flyer camera to a degree, like where I had it in my bag and I was like, oh, I got one. I was like, well, just put one here.
That one scrape I'm getting all those bucks on. That was the same thing. It was a red flash the first time. I'm carrying it around. I'm like, fuck, I'm just put it on this thing. Completely forgot all about it. And the first time I checked it was like July, and I remember it was like jaw drop. It was like just bucks of all shapes and sizes. I was like, well, next year I'm gonna put a camera there, and it's like it is just a banger spot, you know. And it's like, but it's so thick. It's like I have it at ground level, you know, and it's meteor guitar away, you know, the scrape, and it's like there's just so much more activity in the foliage behind. It's like they're just coming.
You can
through.
See the movement, but you can't see.
And it's like, and I've went through that thing 1,000 times, and I can't figure out why that just happens to be where they're walking. There's no, it's not like trained vegetation. It's all the same. It's a fucking swamp. Right. It's like there's just nothing there. It's like, hey, let me come up here. Some days they hit the scrape, but other days they're behind it, and I can't figure out why. It's monotonous, monoculture.
Yeah, monoculture. Nice.
Write that one down.
Yeah, that's another shirt.
Yeah.
Put that on
but
shirt.
Some spots like that just drive me crazy because it's like
got monoculture in the steeps and deeps.
Yeah, because like I set up on it twice this year. It's like I'm gonna hunt the outside, nothing. You know, it's like, and the next time I hunt on the inside, nothing. And at that point, you know, it's like the jig is up. You know, both are. Yeah. I've ground sended the crap out of it. It was like, well, I don't see shit. This was like, is it my way in? Is it my way out? Like, what's happening in this spot? But it's like, it's so good. It's like, I'll just keep plugging away at it until, you know, maybe something will stick one day. Yeah. Probably not, but.
Yeah. But going back to what I was saying, you asked me about the does. Like, so that camera that was like a flyer, like, yeah, there were a fair amount of does on it. But, you know, and I know you don't, I know you kind of think the same thing, is that I have a camera that has a bunch of does on it. I ain't mad about it, right? Because I did have some good bucks on it. But what it also told me was that, you know, the one thing we always know, man, the does like to bed where they like to bed. And like, if they don't have a reason to move off of it, they're not going to, you know.
I find them, especially in where I hunt in Jersey and even like in PA, they're very consistent with their bedding.
Right.
You know, they don't really change much unless they're forced.
Yeah. So with that, you know, this spot proved to be a good spot during different portions of the year because of that reason, you know. And so you kind of put that in the bank and you're like, all right, cool. So even if bucks do shift and they don't shift far, right, it's like that's a spot that's worth spending some time in because those bucks know what's there.
Yeah.
Like they're not, you know, it's not like they forgot, you know who else lives in that general area, and, you know, we'll have a reason to come back.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes.
You know, not always, but it's, you know, worth a sit, maybe. All right. We made it to the last question. Here we go. What is it that you love and hate the most about hunting? That's a pretty good question. That's deep.
Yeah. It's technical.
Yeah, it is.
Steeps and deeps.
Steeps and deeps.
What is it that you love
the most about hunting and you hate the most about hunting?
Whitetails.
Whitetail. Simple answer. Whitetails.
Yeah, I love them and I hate them.
Right.
I love the challenge that it brings.
Yeah.
It's never the same thing. You know, so it's the mental part of it. You know, and the physical and all that stuff that comes along with it. The hate part would be I don't get enough time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I would love to do it more, but not from like a job standpoint where it's like my job. Like I don't know if I could hunt full time
24/7, 365.
Yeah,
it would. Not one of those dudes.
It would lose that allure, that shininess.
Right. Part of like what makes it so I don't want to say appealing, but like the part why you look forward to it is because there's exclusivity.
Yes.
It only happens like for so much time during the course of the year. And then on top of that, you only have but so much time to do it because you have other obligations.
Yes.
Right. Yes, I totally get that. And so so I'll go a little different because I agree with you with both of them, especially like the hate part, like that I only get to do it, you know, so much, and totally the challenge part of it too.
There's only so many we're only here for so long. So there's
Right. There's only so many seasons.
The ability for us to do it at a high level diminishes like the older. Like
with time.
Yeah, like I've been hunting a long time, and it's like there's only so many. Like now, like my daughter, I look forward to like maybe a net will hunt or whatever. Like hopefully she'll be into it like I was with my dad, but
right.
There's a good possibility no.
Right. Right. Hard no.
Yeah, so it's like I mean, like I remember those moments with my dad. It's like I hate that they're gone, you know, never to return, you know, because you're a kid and all that stuff. And like now it's like my dad's older, I'm getting older, and it's like it's just less and less. And my dad, he definitely don't hunt like he used to. You know, he's 76, still goes out, but you're old. You know,
he's taking a walk.
Yeah, it's not the same anymore. So it's like there's a small window where it's really like you're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, yeah. I think what I love most about it is, you know, agree with you. It's the challenge, right? So I'll go, you know, the challenge / the chess match, right? So I'll go a different way just so we have a broader answer. I think for me, what I love is hunting new areas, like traveling and hunting different habitat. You know, being able to try to hunt on the ground in the plains and hunt the mountains and hunt swamps and hunt. Like that's
one good thing about whitetails.
They live everywhere, man. You can hunt them anywhere.
Any type of terrain.
Yeah. There. And I love that part of it, of being able to just deciding on a given year. There's still some like over the counter opportunities where you can kind of decide what type of hunt do I want to have this year. Yep. You know, and you can pretty much go find it. You know, it's, you know, for me, you know, for the longest time, I was trying to go into the plains, and I did that. And how freaking cool is that? That I was just like, I want to go hunt open country whitetails, and I can go do it. You know, I think what I hate the most about hunting, the superficial answer is waking up early. I hate waking up early. God, do I hate it. Like
I get up early for work. So,
I'm just not like an early. I mean, I don't sleep in necessarily for work. Like I get up like at a reasonable hour to get a workout in and all that kind of stuff, right? But like the hunting alarm clock is just a different alarm clock. Like, I mean, I get right up out of bed because I'm like, sweet, I get to go hunting today. But I still hate getting up. You know, like it just, that doesn't ever change.
I'm like, there's moments where it's like I'll sleep like 3 hours because I'm like, man, I gotta wake up at 3. I got a 45-minute ride. I got an hour walk. I need to cool down. So it's like I'll get up at like 2:30, 3. Especially when like Annette was really young. I mean, I would get like no sleep. But it's like that, like dragging ass to get up for work, but hunting, so I'd spring up.
Oh, dude,
no sleep.
Off, I'm like,
I'd
boom.
be buzzing all day. Like, this is amazing. I love this.
Yeah. So that's my superficial answer, is like I just don't like to get up early. But like the real answer is kind of like along the lines to what you were saying, is that, and that part of this is my own fault, is that, you know, that I hate that I don't get to hunt really ever with my old man, you know, and for a long time he lived in the Carolinas. So it's like we just didn't get together, right? He lived there and I lived here, and he didn't really come up here to hunt. He would come up and hunt like bears with like one of our family members and stuff, but not really whitetail hunting or whatever. And now he lives here, and we still don't hunt together because he's still 3 hours away. Yeah. And you know, I'm an asshole, and so I'm all consumed with like a specific deer or trying to chase down a goal or something like that, to where it's like I'm in on like this thing, and I'm like, you're such a jerk, dude. Like, you know. He's always like, hey, come back. And I'm always like, yeah, I will. And then like the time never works out. Right. And I hate that, to your point, like those things that you grew up doing and cherishing, you know, that, you know, they don't happen as frequently as you would like them to. Right. And they're not the same. They're different, but you just need to appreciate them differently now. You know what I mean? I still have some growing to do there, because I still put it off because I'm like, no, I'm chasing this deer, or I'm chasing this thing, or I'm trying to do this in Kansas or whatever, where I should really just like try to find weekends and go back, and if I don't see, and hunt his property, you know, he's got 60 acres or whatever, just go back and dick around with him.
How's the Sunday hunting in PA coming along this year?
I mean, it was, last I read, it was being voted on, or it did get voted on, or it passed somewhere, like in like one of the branches,
37 chambers.
Yeah, one of the 3 million chambers of things. I mean, I think it's getting closer. I think it'll eventually get done. This year, I mean, I doubt it. I think we're probably kind of past that point.
They might give you an extra Sunday this year.
No, we have the same Sundays we've had in the past. You know, so I don't think we're going to get anything new this year. I would think that the soonest it would happen would be maybe for the not the 2024 hunting season, but the 2025 one. I could see maybe because it's making some headway. They've at least agreed, if I'm not mistaken, like the Farm Bureau, they started kind of agreeing to some parameters as to like they will consider it or potentially allow it, whatever the wording is, right, with certain concessions, right? And I think that they've kind of gotten to a point where they are kind of in loose alignment to what those concessions might be for them to relinquish some control or whatever. So with that, I think we're probably closer than we've ever been, you know. But yeah, that's another thing I hate is that you can't hunt Sundays. Like that drives me crazy. That drives me crazy. You know, not even that I would hunt every Sunday, but I would like the option too.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Especially like for us, it's like I tell Monica, I'm like, all right, what day do you want? You get a half a day. You either get the half a day on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I go hunting in the morning, or I go hunting in the evening, or Saturday, or we're doing something like I get one full day, you know, and then I will. What are we doing?
Right.
Like I can hunt Saturday morning. I'll be home at like 2, something along those lines, or vice versa. We'll go out in the morning, and then I'll go out. Like, so it's nice having that option.
Right. Yeah.
For sure.
I do not have that option.
Losers.
Peasants. Yeah, I know exactly. And every year, like I'll go pull trail cameras at the end of the year and be like, oh, look at all that day walking on Sunday.
That's why.
You know, it's like all the time, never fails. You know, but cool, man. Well, I've kept you here, dude. That was a banger, dude. We're like going on almost 2 hours and 45 minutes or something of this jammer. Yeah. So it's not like the marathon we did 8-hour session the one time at your house.
That was a rough one.
That was a rough one. I had to stay overnight.
Yeah.
But, before I let you get out of here though, man, let people know where they can follow along with you, find out what you got going on, anything you want to make people aware of, all that kind of happy stuff.
No.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
You don't need to leave me alone.
Just search my name. I'm out of commission, so there's really not much happening on video front or format front.
Right. If you want to see some sweet wrist physical therapy sessions,
it's like,
hit him up.
Take this. Look, what do you think of this? What do you think of this scar?
What do you think of this karate chop hand?
Yeah, so I might be quiet for a while on that front, really.
Yeah.
But I will be, any listeners, Pennsylvania TAC, I will be working the Latitude booth, so anybody's listening to this,
cool.
I'll be there all weekend. One-armed Willie.
Willie.
Hanging out.
Not from his left arm, but from his right arm. Nice. All right, brother. It's always good to see you. I appreciate you coming over.
Yeah, man.
Got to make sure we do this again. We'll do another session late summer like we usually do.
Yeah, maybe we'll have better news.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for listening, everyone. All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there too. And before I shut this thing down, we need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible. Osseo Gear, Tethered, Exodus Outdoor Gear, and Genesee Beer. And until next time, we'll see y'all.